Let's have a look at a few of the runners in our next. We'll start with Danzan for Tim Easterby and David Allen, back down into a more reasonable level of competition, I think.
So. It's the Mr. Wolf Sprint, fantastic record here. This fella is very capable, but he's on a 2-year losing streak. He's 10 years of age, and he didn't beat many at York last time, so hard to know what to expect.
So look at number 9, who's just following. This is Havana Gila for Harry Eustace and Kaya Fraser, edging down the weights, isn't she?
Yeah, and she's only 3, up against some much more seasoned rivals. Back up in trip now could help, and needs to, with a decent claimer on board.
So look at the last few that are with us in the paddock. We will start with number 6, Keep Warm, for Billy Garrity, Mick and David Easterby.
Potential here. 2 course and distance wins in the summer of 23. Hasn't had many opportunities over this trip since, and over a longer trip last time, ran like the race may well have been needed. A likely improver, I think.
3 is Admiral D for Richard Fye and Oshinor.
So much ability, so frustrating. 95 to 73, 14 defeats on a run, 6th at Red Car was nothing flash.
You could have just said row.
Oh, the Admiral.
We'll leave them there ahead of our next Admiral D is mounted on the chute.
And this is how they bet for Division 1 of the Mr. Wolf Sprint. Willaraupi is 4-1. One Night Thunder, there's a bit of money around for that. 5s from 13 to 2. Minnesota Lad is also 5s. Admiral D 11 to 2. And Samaxi's the same. It is 8-1. Keep Warm. Danzan 17 to 2. 14s Havana Gila. And Speeding Bullet 28. Non-runners 1 and 11. 9 go though. It's an open look to this market, isn't it? Willaraupi, the 4-1 favourite. Just about all down at the start. I think there's just 1 to join them now. And won't be too long until they're loading them up. Here's Chris.
Yeah, let's start with Willaraupi then, who's the favourite. We didn't get to see him in the paddock, but he came back to winning form at Red Car on his most recent start. He'd run well at Weatherby before that, Graham, when he bumped into a thriving one in Northcliffe.
Absolutely, and this is his sweet spot. 6 furlongs. He's won 2 of his 5 goals at this trip, and he's up 5 for the Red Car win. But what I liked about that, he was probably nicely drawn that day, but he found plenty. When he was driven, he found plenty, and he was quite game when it got tough. So even from a £5 higher mark, he's an obvious one, which in a race which is, reasonably long on numbers, but not that long on banging form horses.
One who's very strong in the market is One Night Thunder. Now, he's absolutely plummeted in the weights. He hasn't been showing much for a while, really, has he? But he is taking quite a drop in class off what is a rapidly falling mark. And if you go back to his stable debut, admittedly in very different conditions and a long time ago.
For Hannon Stable at Kempton, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, sorry, his stable debut, though.
Yeah.
He started for this yard off a mark of 90.
Yeah, that's right.
He's now a £15 lower. Now, different conditions and a long time ago, but it's interesting that the market is speaking quite in his favour as it is.
I find that quite notable. On the face of it, he's regressed, and he's well beaten not once but twice this year, but in a fairly shallow handicap, that seems a notable market move. From gate 8 with John Mason on board.
Sir Maxi, who's coming out of stall 3, Mount of PJ McDonald's, has already had a winner tonight. Ran a good race at Carlisle last time out in an amateur riders race, and that form has been boosted subsequently.
Yeah, he's been in pretty good form. He's got 8 wins on his record, so he's paid his way. 4 on the grass, 4 on the all-weather. Latest at Chelmsford in March. 7 furlongs that for amateur riders race. Third at Carlisle was with a visor on, I think, instead of blinkers. He was caught a bit flat-footed at an important point, and the leaders got away from him and he couldn't get them back. So Ponty's stiff track should suit, and he's running a bit better than most at the moment.
Minnesota Lad was second last time out at Lingfield, and he's attracting a good bit of market support as well.
Yeah, he used to be with Farr Stable. I think he won twice for Richard Farr. Don't think he's struck for... Well, he's not been with Ivan Furtado very long, I don't think, has he? And he seemed to run pretty well at second. He did run well, second at Lingfield in an apprentice race. Tom Eaves rides, and he's got the inside alley.
Yeah, Minnesota Lad, whose latest effort down at Lingfield was only in a small field.
Yeah.
And a couple of those that ran out the race have been beaten since. But
Dan Zan should go forward here, do you think, from stall 4?
Yeah, I would think he's one of the ones that he's most likely to make it, really, isn't he? Him and maybe One Night Thunder.
What prices
has led a couple of times.
Prices keep warm here, Chris, because you would not be mad keen based on his recent form figures, but he was a handy sprinter this time, just under 2 years ago, and he won twice over this course and distance. Now, most of his racing since, I think, has been 7 furlongs or even a mile, and his airy appearance, I think it might have been a combination of needing the race, and the trip it wasn't 6 furlongs that day, was it?
No, it wasn't. He hasn't run over 6 furlongs since he last won.
Yeah, that could be an intriguing angle.
He hasn't been back to Pontefract since he last won.
Do you want a bit wider than...
2 from 2 here.
Yeah. Do you want a bit wider than you would choose? But back at Ponty and back at this trip, they look, plus points for Keep Warm.
I wonder if he might want slightly slower ground.
Possibly. But when he had, there he is, Keep Warm. When he recorded those 2 wins here back to back, he looked at the sprinter going the right way. Now, it hasn't gone his way since, but he's back at Ponty and he's back at 6 furlongs and he's getting the hood on. I don't have a strong view here, do you? And I found this a really difficult race.
No, not really. It wasn't a race that I particularly liked.
4-1 the field.
Yeah. The market strength that was initially there with One Night Thunder was quite interesting, but takes a little bit of a leap of faith after his more recent runs.
You will remember Mr. Wolf.
I do
flying
remember
around
Mr.
here. He was
Wolf,
a smashing horse, wasn't he?
He was a great horse.
David Barker, the late
red and white hoops, wasn't it?
White, largely white colours. Yeah, he might have had a hoop or maybe a diamond.
They were David Barker's uncle as well.
Yeah, but he used to fly around here, and he was a pretty handy horse elsewhere, but really popular. Take no prisoners sprinter.
Just about set, aren't we?
What time is it for the Mr. Wolf?
Admiral D heading forward. And we're ready. And they're off. Division 1 of the Mr. Wolf Sprint handicap. Sir Maxi a little slow in getting going, and likewise One Night Thunder. Dan Zan pushing early speed along together with, on the outside, Keep Warm. They are the front pairing, with wider out of them Speeding Bullet and Havana Giller not too far away with Minnesota Lad in the black and white over to the rails. They're being tracked by Willow LaRupie. Admiral D in the light green is deeper out of One Night Thunder, who's very keen towards the back, and last of all is Sir Maxi as they now begin the uphill climb back towards home. And moving through halfway, it is Danzan, former winner of the Air Bronze Cup, bringing them along by a head or so to in second position Keep Warm. Minnesota Lad travelling well to the inside of Speeding Bullet, then Willow LaRupie and Havana Giller, with next in running One Night Thunder, who's still towards the back with Admiral D and the pushed along Sir Maxi. They race back towards the final furlong. Danzan now under attack, and towards the outside Speeding Bullet in the black and red at a big price has gone to the front, in front of Keep Warm and Danzan. Minnesota Lad is off after the leader, together with Willow LaRupie. They're both coming home well. Speeding Bullet is now all out. Willow LaRupie in the orange colours is thrusting late. Tight! Maybe Speeding Bullet hanging on from Willow LaRupie, but it will be over to the judge to confirm, with Minnesota Lad between them.
It's close at the line, but Speeding Bullet called the winner by a good head in the end, from Willow LaRupie in second, Minnesota Lad in third. Far side for fourth was Keep Warm, and didn't change complexion late on, but it very nearly did. But Speeding Bullet, that's the second winner of the evening from a wide drawing stall 11.
Yeah, David Nolan for Paul Midgley. Paul Midgley, I think, has had a fairly quiet start to the 2025 flat season, but here, faster than a Speeding